Welcome to another episode of the Blue Crew, a New York Rangers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friend over there, Cody Frankel, in his brand new, beautiful Upper East Side apartment. I'm in Florida right now at my cousin's house in Boca, enjoying the R&R before the season starts. Preseason is like a week away, so we're, at the start, man. This is it. Hockey season's here.
We are here.
How you doing, Cody? What's up?
I'm doing good. I'm absolutely stoked football is back. I'm stoked hockey's right around the corner. The Jets lost. Same old, my nothing's changed. It's been lovely. Did just move apartments. That was great time, obviously. But I do love the new space. Great area. Mm-hmm. We talk about it a little bit with Mollie in a few. But yeah, I mean, all is good. The Yankees are getting hot again. They fell off a cliff from half their team being injured, but you know what? Resilience is key, and they took a book out of the Rangers, took a page out of the Rangers playbook, and they have 4 straight wins. So let
me ask you a question on that. Is Aaron Judge comparable right now to Chris Kreider, or is it not even close to?
Dude, it's not even close. No. Aaron Judge
so much better
is without a doubt the best player in baseball this year, and it's not even close. People can say about Ohtani, and Ohtani is a great baseball player. He is one of a kind, generational talent. Yes, he is having a great year from a pitching standpoint. It is not even close in my playbook. Judge, out of the 16 major offensive stats, he's number 1 in 13 of them. It's just not even close. Mm-hmm. He is going to break the record. He's 5 away, 4 away from tying it. Over 20 games left. He should do it with ease. This is unprecedented territory. We have not seen something like this since Babe Ruth. Mm-hmm. And I know obviously Maris hit the 61, but since Babe Ruth, there has not been a player who have had these offensive type stats. So it's been 70 years, not including, the Bonds year. Obviously, Barry Bonds is an unreal player, and he hit 70. Yeah, I mean, regardless, I've always been kind of a pro steroids kind of guy.
Really?
If I'm being honest, yeah. I mean,
makes the game better.
Exactly, It does. I mean, it's like if pitchers can put sticky stuff on, why can't hitters use steroids?
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly. So, but that being said, no, I do think Judge should have the MVP in the bag, and I think, he without him, the Yankees would be slightly above 500, and they are 30 games over 500 in first place. And they called up all these young guys, kind of like what the Rangers did a few years ago, and because of injuries and things of that nature, and they're cruising right now. So they're coming off some big series wins, and I'm curious to see how they play down the stretch and if they can, figure it out and really be that championship contender team going into playoffs. And then obviously the Mets are playing well too. I know they did go through a little rough patch pretty recently, but
they got swept by the Cubs.
Which is not a good look when DeGrom lets up 4 or 5 runs to the worst team or top 5 worst teams in baseball. But Cole does it all the time for the Yankees. You got to just shake that shit off and keep moving forward. And I did see the Mets, I think they won 2 straight. I didn't see yesterday's game, so I don't know if they played or if they won, but I did see they're rebounding a little bit, and they're in a very, very tight, contested battle right now with the Braves for first of the East. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. And once it's getting a little colder here, so October baseball is right around the corner, football is coming in, and then soon enough hockey will be upon us.
Will you be at opening night?
I want to. We should go.
I got tickets already.
Oh, you scumbag.
Well, my friend invited me.
And my cousin. Sorry, what did you say?
My friend invited me. So I
Yeah, I've been talking to a couple of my boys about it. I think I'm gonna get tickets. It's just who are they playing opening night?
You're joking, right?
No,
Tampa.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
I was half kidding, but then I realized as I asked the question. Dude, I'm full baseball and football mode right now. I haven't paid, not that I haven't paid attention to hockey, because I for sure have, but I'm checked out until once training camp starts next week or this week, actually, right? It's this week based
Well,
on
rookie camp's going on right now. Training camp starts. Well, the first preseason game is the 26th.
right. So yeah, so training camp starts this week. So basically that's when I'm going to start getting locked in and being like, all right, it's time. I had my 3 weeks of the Jets losing, and now let's go Rangers. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see all these different battles in training camp, see some of the young kids. And you know, I really want Zach Jones, and I know we talk about him a little bit with Mollie, but really want a guy like that to make our team. I really would like to see him have a fair shot and, you know, hold his own and get that third D spot. And then basically our entire defense corps are literally kids besides Truba. So
No, but they're kids now with experience, right? Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
playoff
obviously,
experience
yeah, age is, you know,
but
somewhat
a
of a
number.
big factor in the NHL, but when you get to the conference final as far as they did, like, it doesn't matter if you're a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. Like, if you're playing that well at, you know, that stage, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Like, you know, I look at these guys now and my whole mindset on them is different just because of what they accomplished last year, right? Like, I don't look at Alexis Lafreniere as a 20-year-old kid anymore because he's now, you know, going to be in his third NHL season and he's played in the Eastern Conference Final. So, like, you know, that kind of goes out the window. Like, obviously there are moments when, you know, he will have a lapse and make some young mistakes, but at the same time, his experience in the NHL now is way above some of the other guys that have been in the league for 5 years and haven't made it that far.
for
So,
sure.
you know, I think that's a huge thing going into the season. That's, you know, part of the narrative that we talk about with Mollie. So, you know, we don't want to give up too much about what we discuss with Mollie, but a huge thing that we also talk about was everything going on with Nils Lundkvist. And, you know, I think we can just touch on it shortly. Like we kind of give our opinions, but, you know, obviously you don't want to see a top prospect not show up to training camp and request a trade, but sometimes these things happen. And, you know, it could be the best for both parties, right? Like he could find a place somewhere else and get more ice time. And the Rangers don't necessarily need him right now. So
The thing with Niels, man, and you just said it, the Rangers don't need him. So another thing is like, yes, he was a highly touted prospect. Yes, of course, we would love to have seen him, you know, play those 45 games last year and absolutely dominate. Unfortunately, those were not the cards he was dealt. He got paired with Nemeth. They thought it was a good idea to pair him with a Swede, and it really backfired because Nemeth, you know, flat out stinks.
Tenorti too, I think, a couple of games.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Tenorti as well for like 5 or 6 games. And, you know, I mean, it just unfortunately backfired. But even so, he just didn't show the offensive prowess that we thought he would. And
although his one goal was a snipe.
Yeah. Were you at that game? Because I was at the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was awesome. The one goal he had was awesome. But at the same time, I mean, they expected a lot of those and it didn't happen. And you can make the argument like, oh my God, he got paired with Nemeth. Nemeth stinks, whatever. But so did Schneider. And Schneider came right in and did his job and didn't complain about it. And also like he didn't complain about it. And he like held his own. And so it's going to be interesting to really see how that plays out. But I think like the biggest factor to me in the whole Neil situation is like, I'm not tied to him as a player because I never really got to see, you know, him develop for the Rangers. And also like he happened to get picked right in the thick of the Rangers getting all these stud prospects. So it's like most people, you know, would pick and choose like who they liked, Lafreniere, Kakko, Krabby, even, you know, Othman, Schneider, whatever. So like, to me, I'm just not as tied to him. So I'm fine with like whatever situation they settle on.
Completely agree. And I think he, you know, will find somewhere to play. And I think he will end up, you know, having a pretty solid career. Is there any other stuff you want to talk about before we go into some fan questions?
Did you see this sick hoodie I'm wearing?
Yeah, that's nice. Very comfortable too.
Yeah, it is very comfortable. And that's by my good pal from Blue York. Our pals at Blue York have some awesome merch for sale right now. It's IamBlueYork.com, and it only gets better because they have an incredible new product line dropping on September 26th, right when training camp starts, which is a coincidence. But gear up for the season because this is a drop you're absolutely not going to want to miss. They have all these different types of comfortable, you know, sweatshirts, sweatpants, sweatsuits now. So they got a whole bunch of stuff going on. That's IamBlueYork.com, and it's going to be a great line. And get your shirts now, get your pants now, and, you know, got to do what you got to do. But that's LFGR, baby. And now back to the show.
We'll be rocking our Blue York merch to the Ranger games this year, especially when it gets cold out. We got those nice heavy sweatshirts that are pretty sweet. So
Premium ones too.
yeah, I'll
Premium
be
ones
rocking
too.
that like tie-dye one. I'll be rocking that one.
Oh,
to
you
live
got
games.
that one? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't roll that way. But no, no. But I got. What do I have? I have a bunch
everything,
dude. I have everything except the tie dye shirt. But no. But
Mm.
in all seriousness, it's it's really comfortable clothes, and definitely check it out. And yeah, I mean they'll be dropping some cool products and maybe some discount codes, and join their Discord, and you can get some codes too.
Yeah. But before we go into our interview with Mollie, we do have a couple of fan questions.
Oh, wait.
What?
Freeze. Blake Wheeler got the C taken away from him. That's kind of wild from the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
What's good with that? Have you heard about that? That just happened.
These things kind of do happen. If you remember, the Kings also did the same thing. They took Dustin Brown's C off his sweater and gave it to Kopitar a couple years ago. That's after they won 2 Stanley Cups.
Do you
Brown
think?
was the captain.
Do you think it's like a lack in leadership, or like they're trying to go in a different direction? Like that's a dude. If I'm Blake Wheeler now,
leadership.
I mean, if I'm Blake Wheeler now, I'm like, yo, get me off this fucking team.
Well, I think they're already trying to trade him, so that could be.
Are they?
I think so. So that could already be like just an early step in the next direction, right? Is to find who that new leader is going to be when he is eventually not on the roster anymore. So listen, I wouldn't like read into it way too much. I mean, obviously they had their own issues last year. Paul Maurice basically resigned in the middle of the season and said, I think this team needs a new voice as a coach. So, who's to say, it hasn't come out yet, but who's to say that Blake Wheeler didn't even say, hey, I think they need a new captain. Like this isn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the latter part of his career. Like it's just, and he's still a very effective player. I think he had like 60 points this year or something like that. But I don't know if I'm a vet guy who's been the captain for a team for a long time and they just take the C away from me. Listen, I get the team's not performing up to snuff and to the level that their fans would like and their brass would like, but I don't know. I don't know how much I agree with that move. I think it puts a worse taste in the locker room's mouth, right? Like now you just took it away. It could cause a rift in the kind of in that locker room and within the leadership of the team. So I don't know.
But it could also be a strategy to like light a fire under Blake Wheeler's ass too, like it could just be like, hey, like we need someone to step up. Who's it going to be? Like this is a team that, a couple of years ago was.
Oh, he just requested a trade. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, but a couple of years ago, they were in the Western Conference Final when they lost to Nashville. Like they've been competing for the last 7 to 10 years, and they have a great goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck who won a Vezina, just 2 years ago. So they need just like a refresh or a new start. And, they got the new coach now. They have, or maybe not yet, a new captain, but they might not even name a captain.
I mean, not just Hellebuyck. They have Kyle Connor too, who's unreal. I mean,
40+ goal scorer.
If they're naming a new captain, I mean, I'm naming it him. He's 25 years old and the guy's having 100-point seasons.
Yeah, he's nasty.
Yeah, he's filth. He had almost 50 goals this year or something like that.
Yeah, he's been like a 40 goal scorer, 35+ goal scorer, I think, in the last 2-3 seasons. Yeah. And we can kind of shift our focus to the Islanders as well. I know a lot of Islander fans are talking about Matt Barzal. He was quoted on Elliot Friedman's podcast saying that he wants to remain an Islander for his career, and he takes a lot of pride in that. His favorite athletes were like Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, who basically played on one team for their entire career. Obviously, Tom Brady right now is in Tampa Bay, but he was pretty much a lifetime Patriot.
I wasn't going to say anything. I know you're dumb, but Michael Jordan also played on multiple teams. But
yeah, he played on the Wizards for like 1 season.
No, he didn't. He played for like 3 years, and I'm not even a basketball fan, bro. What are you doing?
But yeah, I mean, the funny thing is about this is that Islander fans right now are like so happy that Barzal said he wants to stay, but I'm pretty sure John Tavares said the same thing right before he signed with Toronto.
I mean, what like stud on a team wouldn't unless they're like abundantly not happy and make it clear to their team that they like want to be moved or something like that. Like no one's gonna say like while they're getting
I don't want to retire here.
Right. Like he just didn't he just get like a fat deal too, like kind of recently?
I'm not sure. But also, like to that point, isn't Aaron Judge like not saying he wants to stay with the Yankees? Isn't that a thing?
We don't want to talk about Aaron Judge. Yeah, he's listen.
I saw Red
Judge has done a lot. No, that's just media. That's not a thing. I would bet any amount of money right now with you, have this on the record, that Aaron Judge is going to one of two teams, and that is either he's staying with the Yankees, which is the heavy favorite, or if he does go to another team, it's going to be the San Francisco Giants. He's from there. He's not going to the Red Sox. He's not going to the Rays. He's not going to the Mets. Sorry, Mets fans. He's not going there. He's going to either re-sign with the Yankees or he's going to the Giants. But he's a very, very nice individual. And why shouldn't he market himself? He's betting on himself this year. He's having one of the best seasons anyone's ever seen in their lifetime. And why wouldn't he? Like he would be unjustifiable to himself if he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna talk to these people. He should talk to all 30 teams, whatever he's got to do to get himself as much money as he can possibly get. Listen, at the end of the day, I hope the Yankees throw him the bag. I don't even care at this point. Like, yeah, it won't look good on the back end, but a guy like that, like, you can't let him go. Like, look what the Red Sox did with Mookie Betts. Look what the Braves just let Freddie Freeman go to the Dodgers. In terms of hockey, like, we see it all the time as well. Like, you name Tavares and guys like that. Like, you can't let that happen. So
for sure. Do you want to go into the fan questions now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the first one we got, I think I said it's Sharona 904 last time, but I'm pretty sure it's just like Sharon A 904. But either way, she wants to know, what's your honest opinion of the Rangers getting stuck with 15 ESPN games if they're on ESPN Plus next season?
From a standpoint of no Sam and Joe, that kind of sucks. But from a selfish standpoint for myself,
no, I still think it would be Sam and Joe. It's just streamed on ESPN Plus. It's not?
No, it would be like Ray Ferraro and whoever they had positive.
I watched a ton of games last year on ESPN Plus, and it was a local broadcast. It was just streamed. It was just streamed on ESPN Plus.
No way.
Like, I think in this case, the game is just not on MSG Network, but like
that just doesn't make sense to me because MSG has Sam Rosen and Joe's exclusive rights. There's no way. There's no way. I think you're wrong.
I definitely sound wrong now.
Dude, yeah. There's no way.
Yeah, I definitely sound wrong.
That would be like the Mets, right? Because who's the Mets broadcaster?
Like Gary, Keith, and Ron.
Yeah, so that would be like Ron Darling for the Mets, on SNY or whatever channel they play on, like on ESPN, and you just hear all three of them. Like
Yeah. All right, let's just forget that I said that.
Yeah, but no, but for selfish reasons, I just cut the cord pretty recently, so like I have ESPN Plus, so I'll get to watch them. I mean, not that I can't watch the Rangers as it is because you just on MSG Go, but yeah, I mean, listen, I'm very vocal about the fact that this ESPN and Turner deal is so huge for the sport of hockey that like I'm fine with it. I think getting a team like the Rangers and an original six team out there and marketed to the rest of the world, 15 times a year, like that would be wonderful. So I think it'll be good in the standpoint of like a marketability and profitability for the sport of hockey. But for Rangers fans and like me and you and, Sharon, I obviously I would love to see Sam and Joe more than, seeing Ray Ferraro and people who aren't attached to the Rangers like we are as good as they are,
The only thing that I don't like about it, and I don't know if I'm sure it'll change soon, but most bars that I go to aren't really streaming ESPN Plus. So like if I wanted to go to a bar and watch the Ranger game and it's not an MSG, like they're not going to be able to stream it. Like last night I was actually, I'm in Florida and I wanted to watch the Thursday night football game and I went to a bar with my family to eat and watch the game and they didn't have Amazon Prime. So like we couldn't even watch the game. So like,
yeah,
all these things are just now, that they're becoming, this new kind of media
streaming
though.
Wars, man. It's crazy.
At some point though, everyone's just going to have streaming. Cable is just going to be gone. Right. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be no more cable. So,
yeah,
I think at some point everyone's just going to have to
join me
and do it. And yeah, just join the dark side. But I don't think it's a bad thing for the game itself. Like I love having ESPN Plus and being able to watch, Columbus play Dallas every night or stuff like that. So, I don't really think it's a bad thing. There are some inconveniences, but like at the end of the day, it's the best thing for the NHL. So, that's kind of all I have on that. We have another one from Matt Crank, and this is definitely a Cody question. Is there a universe where we don't trade Hedel? Trocheck is clearly our 2C, and Laff and Keandre need to get paid. If we find a way to keep Hedel, who ends up with the cap casualty? And it's funny that he's asking that, though, without even seeing Trocheck play a game yet for the Rangers.
Oh, well, I mean, he's not wrong. Trocheck
Yeah,
is
it's a
our
commitment.
2C. They literally
Mhm.
signed this guy for 7 years, or was it 8 years? It was one. I
7,
forgot.
7.
7. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, they signed him for 7 years and they gave him the bag. He is our 2C.
I mean, if
That
Hedo plays better, though, who knows? Like, Hedo could
no,
be 2,
no,
and
it's
Trocheck could be 3.
I don't see it. But yeah, I mean, maybe, but not for the next 2-3 years. I don't see that happening. Especially since Trocheck is going to put up the points.
Mhm.
That being said, yes, Lafreniere and Keandre both need to get paid for sure. What they get paid is completely contingent on how both of them play this year. There is going to be a cap casualty. There has to be. Does it necessarily need to be Heedle? No. I mean, if Heedle plays incredibly well this year, the cap casualty might be someone else like Kako. If Kako doesn't play good on that bridge deal they just gave him, he's gone. I mean, it's as simple as that. Another guy who's for sure a fan favorite, but he's going to need a new contract too next year. And I don't see them having the money to pay him is Ryan Lindgren. I just don't see them having the money to pay him on top of Lafreniere and Heedle. Lafreniere and Keandre, because both of those guys are gonna get salaries probably starting with a 4. So, and Keandre, I mean, if he has, a crazy season again, like it could be higher. So it's tough to try and determine that now because it literally is completely contingent on how these guys play this year. That being said, like if I had to put my money on a player who, and listen, I love him as much as the next guy, I would say is probably going to be Ryan Lindgren because I just don't see how they have the money to sign him again without giving up, one of Keandre or Lafreniere, and they're not going to do that. So, yeah, that's my take on that.
No, I thought that was perfectly said. I don't really have much on that question. It's just for me, it's let's see how it plays out, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm not a
it's going to be one of 3 players, and I just
yeah.
named all 3 of them. Which one we don't know. It's really contingent on how each of the 3 play, and unfortunately, probably the one who has the worst year this year is probably the one who's going to be gone. I know Kako has 2 years, so I know he has next year as well, but I think at that point it might be past the point of return if he doesn't have a big year this year. I think it's he's under the gun for sure. It's the spotlight's on him, and same with Heedle. And I want to see these guys perform, and I would love to see them perform because if you have to have a cap casualty, like as much as that sucks, that's a good problem to have. It means everybody else is doing really well. So.
No, I completely agree. I think that was really well put. And as always, thank you guys for sending in questions. I'm sure we'll have a lot more as the season kind of gets underway now.
Send it to Mollie.
Yeah, let's send it over to Mollie Walker. This week, we're very happy to welcome on to the Blue Crew, a good friend of the show, a good friend of ours, someone who probably doesn't need an introduction anymore, but she is a beat reporter for the New York Post. She's the queen of New York sports, and we're happy she's here. Welcome to the show, Mollie Walker. Mollie, what's going on?
Not much. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, if there's anyone crushing a summer in New York City right now, it's you. You've done everything. You're a new resident. You're going to training camps, baseball games, and you still haven't found. I guess you have found the ice now. That was like a trend you had going on this
Yes, I know. Actually, I was quite flattered. A lot of people kind of picked up on that and started taking it for their own. So I was feeling a little bit like a trendsetter for a bit there. But yeah, no, obviously looking forward to getting to the ice the entire summer. As fun as it was to do a little bit of a New York sports tour, I guess you could say. But I love that. I love visiting all the different beats and seeing all the people that I used to see all the time when I first started, when I was a GA, just kind of bouncing around. So it's fun to do a little bit of a rounds, but happy to have found the ice again.
Yeah. And Mollie, since we live in the same area, we'll have to carpool to the games and maybe you can get me a press pass or something.
Cody and I are neighbors. It's a little low key. I could walk to where he is right now.
I know. We'll have to hit up some coffee shops and talk stats. But
yeah, for sure.
Well, what is your commute to the practice facility? I'm curious because I think you can kind of attest to it. You're doing the same commute as the players, so.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, probably not the exact same. I'm on the commuters train. I'm sure they, they get to. I know that they. I always see like not buses, but, one of those like bigger Mercedes cars, that I think they all take together. But I did it for the first time the last couple of days. It really wasn't that bad, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself for the rest of the season, but just take a train from Grand Central and drops me off right in Tarrytown Station. And it's like a 9-minute drive to the facility. So I just take an Uber, or when I'm lucky and my dear colleague, Larry Brooks, picks me up and takes me to the facility with him.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of Larry, I'm going to start this off with
Sure.
some Rangers talk here. And he reported that Niels is looking for an out from this team and is holding out of training camp as well, with the hopes of a trade on the horizon. So I guess, what's the latest chatter you've been hearing? And do you think Drury will be able to find a suitor by October 11th?
Well, it's just that we obviously spoke to Chris Drury yesterday, and he didn't have an update. Not that he would really provide an update. He's usually pretty tight-lipped about that, and he never will divulge any sort of conversations with agents or players, which we of course respect. But that's the word. Larry Brooks said that, it's kind of a mutual decision at this point. Obviously, Lundqvist wants a top 4 role. And with his
crazy.
Yeah, I know it is. It is a little bit. But in reality, though, even if it isn't now, in the long run, Nils probably doesn't have a top 4 role just because of who's ahead of him on the depth chart. And his thing is, quarterbacking a power play, and the Rangers have Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba as well.
That guy.
Yeah, right. So even in the long run, I don't think that Nils fits in the Rangers organization in terms of what he hopes to accomplish in his career. So better to get out sooner rather than later, I think. Otherwise, he would be marinating in the minor leagues properly. So in this case, if he is able to be traded, he would get to start over and work his way up. And hopefully there would be an opening somewhere down the line, because probably not right this second. But it was his first season in North America. Obviously, it's a different type of game, different type of layout. And I think that it just didn't translate immediately for him. And obviously, as the Rangers have this problem all the time, there's a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype. Yeah. And because of that, when expectations are that high, it's really hard to meet those. So I think that that's kind of went down. And I think that Drury obviously put it out there that they want to get some semblance of an equal return. I don't see that happening. I think they'll be lucky to get a top draft pick. And then in that sense, Drury should pull the trigger immediately.
Yeah, well, you definitely make some really good points there. And I guess I wanted to add on a second portion to that. This is now the 3rd young Rangers player over the last 3-4 years. And you probably knew this was coming, but this is the 3rd or 4th player over the last few years who have, wanted out. Obviously we had Kravtsov. Glad they were able to mend things. He's back now. And then they also had Anderson as well. So that kind of brings me to the point. I mean, do you think it is more of a character development problem within the Rangers system, or do you think it's more of these younger guys having that sense of entitlement and kind of, not fully understanding, not the team aspect, but kind of like looking for more right from the jump as opposed to earning it like some of these older players?
It's a really good question. And I think it's a little bit of everything that you said. And I think that each case has been pretty drastically different. Obviously, Lias Andersson, top draft pick, 7th overall. There's a lot that comes with that territory in general for the player, for the organization, everything. Obviously, he struggled, but I also think he struggled away from the ice really heavily, as we've seen in those articles that came out just about him staying up at all hours of the night to communicate with his friends back home on video games and things like that. And it messed up his sleep schedule. So I think that a lot of what happened with Lias, was super unfortunate and kind of was a culmination of them bringing a kid away from home right off the bat, the heaviness of the shoulders with being 7th overall pick. Obviously Kravtsov, I'm very curious to see how that's going to unfold. I won't even touch on it because I'm waiting to see.
Yeah.
And then with Nils, I think that the Rangers learned their lesson with the last couple of top picks that you guys have mentioned. I think that they did try to wait with him. They let him marinate in the Swedish league for a while. Right. He did. He became the best. He was named the best Swedish defenseman, of the year in 2021. And that was kind of their indication that maybe he could be ready. And I think that they also brought in Patrick Nemeth, another Swedish guy that they would hope that they would be able to help each other out and he would be there for them. So I think that, they took steps that were intended to make the transition easier for Lundqvist, but I don't think that his game translated as quickly as they wanted and needed it to. And also, I think they realized in the grand scheme of things that they already have a player like Lundqvist in the organization. And, for a top prospect like Lundqvist, obviously he wants to have a bigger role in an organization. So I think that it didn't work out with Lundqvist, and that kind of happens sometimes. But you're right. Obviously, if there's a little bit of a track record here and a little bit of a pattern, I guess you could say. But I do think that when it comes to Lundqvist, the Rangers did try to do the right things along the way. I just don't think it worked out.
I'm on the side where I don't blame Lundqvist. I mean, the only thing that I'll maybe knock him for is not showing up to camp. Like, he didn't even give himself a chance to even try to make the team, because people forget that he made the roster last year at a camp. Like, he was there opening night. But when you're a player and you've had a taste, that's all you want is to play. So I don't blame him for requesting the trade. And, to your point, Molly, like, a lot of these guys that are playing in front of him are young. It's not like they're going anywhere, Like, if it was a 35-year-old veteran defenseman in front of him, he might stick around a little bit longer knowing he'll have a shot. But, the guys that are in front of him are, within the same age. So, like,
true, but was just named captain.
Yeah. Like,
if that's not a declaration that he's going to be here for a while, I don't know what is, I think that also was a pretty glaring indication to Lundqvist and his camp.
But as we know, as members of Rangers Twitter and just the Rangers community in general, everyone's going to make a big deal out of this when it really isn't that big of a deal. Like, is Nils Lundqvist leaving the end of the world?
I literally wrote that this doesn't upend any of the Rangers' plans. Like, he fell off the depth chart a little bit. He did. Right. And I think that because of that, it isn't going to affect the Rangers that much.
Well, on that note, a lot of people are talking about whether or not this team got better or worse this offseason. I think that's like such an impossible question to answer right now, but I'm curious as to what you think, because everyone's opinion is so different on this topic.
Of course. I will say I'm a huge fan of the Trocheck signing. Same. I really am, just in terms of what he'll bring to the top six, just giving them a different look. But I think the top storyline for the Rangers going to the season is how much of their success hinges on the young guys having breakout seasons and being able to fill in for guys like Andrew Kopp, Frank Vatrano, and what they brought to the team after the deadline, which seemingly really, cemented what they had and pushed them onto that run. So I think that they'll definitely be expected to shoulder at least a little bit some of that responsibility, because obviously we don't know if Chris Kreider is going to score 52 goals again. We don't know if Igor Shesterkin is going to be able to replicate the exact same type of performance. Not saying that he won't or that he will, but we don't know yet, obviously. So I do like the Trocheck signing, just because in terms of what the Rangers needed to do for that top six group, he brings a lot of different qualities in contrast to what they already have up there, which is a lot of skill, which is great. But you need a bit of a different look, at least on one of the two lines. So I think that he brings that. And then, it's so difficult to say whether or not they got better, because a lot of it is almost chancing it on the young guys and what they're going to be able to bring to the team this season.
No, Cody, I'm laughing that she answered like basically your next.
I was going to say something. Jonny, right when she said the 52 goals and then she said Igor, in my head I was just like, damn it.
This is what I do. I'm thinking ahead.
I know, but circling a little bit back to Trocheck, I agree. I think he was a great signing. I mentioned to Jonny, I'm a big fan right when they signed him, and going to training camp a little bit. it's basically upon us here. So what would you say is the top storyline for fans to really look forward to? And then also, is it possible we could see any surprises making the team out of camp, or at this point it's, our roster is pretty much supplanted?
Me personally, I am just curious to see how things pan out with Kravtsov. Obviously, with the history there and what happened, I'm curious to hear what he has to say for himself, and two, curious to see where he fits in the lineup and then what he can bring. Because I just feel like it's been a long time coming for him to have a significant role on this team, and obviously that most certainly played a big part in what went down last season. He didn't make the roster at a training camp, and I think he took that personally, and that's fine, especially if he was under the impression that he was going to be. But obviously how he handled it was not that great of a look. So I'm also curious to be in the locker room and just get that sense from the team in terms of that dynamic. I'm also curious to see how the last spot in the defense works out. I think it's Zach Jones's spot to win. But knowing what we know about Gerard Gallant and what he likes back there, Libor Hayek might be the sixth guy.
Don't do that to us,
and that's fine. Libor really proved to be a pro's pro last season. It was not easy, I'm sure, to sit in the press box night after night after night. And be in that true depth role. So I think it would be unfair to do that to him again this season. So that's also why I think he could get the first look, just out of, respect for, his history on this team and also his familiarity with Gerard Gallant. So that's the other storyline that I would look out for.
Yeah. And speaking of Hayek a little bit, I mean, I know he's still a young guy, but do you think it's safe to say at this point, like, we know what we have with him, right? I mean, I think we know he's kind of like a third pair, fourth pair kind of guy who can come
fourth
in.
Pair.
Like the seventh.
That's in the stands, my dude.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was trying to be nice to what Mollie was saying over here, but no, I mean, I agree with you, and I think that if they are going to do that, they should really look to trade him. I do know I heard some rumblings, last year and even the year before, they were looking around and shopping him a little bit, but he's still here. He's still the kayak is still floating upstream. But yeah, speaking of that, so at what point this year do you think the next kid would be called up? Someone like a Cooley, someone like an Othman, or someone else? And if someone does get called up and is here to stay, who do you think it would be at some point this season?
Well, the difficult situation with Othman is that either he gets a look right out of opening night, like on opening night, and for a couple games. Larry and I were talking about the possibility if he has a great camp and they're like, we want a longer actual look at this guy, they could give him a couple games at the NHL level and then just assign him back to the OHL. And I'm pretty sure if they assign him to the OHL, they can't recall him after that. Like that, that'll be it. So then for those reasons, it's a tough situation for him because it's really one or the other out of training camp. It's either he earns that look or doesn't. And then it's what he does with that look. If he does end up getting it, that will also decide the rest of his season. And so then because of that, I think that Cooley would be one of the first guys up if a forward goes down in an injury situation, which I think wouldn't be the worst thing in the world at all, because Cooley looks ready to go. I will say that Cooley, you can't miss him on the ice, especially during this rookie camp this week. You walk right in and he's the first guy that you see on the ice, really, just with the intensity that he brings and how hard he's going at these camps. He really, really wants it. Obviously they all do, but he is really, from what I've seen, going the extra mile to set himself apart.
Yeah. And it seems like they're not afraid to utilize Cooley on the fourth line if they needed to. it seems like they're fine, third, fourth line, something like that. And I feel I would have to think if, Othman's making the team, they're for sure not going to put this guy on the fourth line. And then
no, I mean, you'd think,
right,
I feel like we said similar stuff when David Quinn was in charge.
For sure.
Think, but who knows?
Yeah, but there would also be like a whole bunch of repercussions to that as well, right? It's like you then need to figure out of Kravy and Kako and Lafreniere and even Hedl, like one of those guys isn't going to end up being on the top 9 if that's the case. And
exactly.
I think you're probably right, and that's not the type of can of worms they want to open. So
yeah. I definitely, if I had to guess, I think that just because logistically speaking, unless Othman has an unbelievable training camp and really just turns every head in that management box, I imagine that he would go to the OHL.
I want to step away from some training camp talk for a little bit and just like the season in general and get more of a sense of who Mollie Walker is as a reporter.
Oh,
no, this is fun stuff. But
Queen of the Post.
Who are some of your favorite guys on the team to interact with? And obviously this season is going to be way different for you because you mentioned it before. You do have locker room access this year for the first time in like 3 seasons.
Finally.
So is that changing your whole mentality and your whole approach to what you do on the day-to-day basis? Like, can you tell us kind of your, I guess, mindset going into this year?
For sure. I mean, being in the locker room is such a huge part of what we do. And I don't think that it's stressed enough from, people on the outside looking in, how important it is, just in terms of developing the relationship. And with that, you get different sorts of quotes. And it also just brings a different competitive aspect to our jobs in general. We're not all working off the same quotes. We have our own, private conversations and, ways of getting different quotes, because it changes who they're talking to, so it definitely changes everything going into the locker room, again, with the competitiveness and just, wanting to finally get back to developing actual relationships with these players because the press conference setting is just not natural. It's impossible to have a normal conversation or make a normal comment or hey, I saw you got engaged, like congrats. I don't know, it's so weird and uncomfortable in those situations. So the locker room is much more casual. And I feel like it also helps put players at ease a little bit. It makes them a little bit, less pent up in that setting where everybody can hear what they have to say.
Right.
Whereas when they say it just to you, they know. And again, that goes back to trust and building the relationship. As far as the guys I love interacting with, selfishly and biasly, especially this week, love being around Zach Jones and Bobby Trevino. It was funny. I said hi to Bobby the other day, and a bunch of the other prospects were like, I kind of heard them say like, what was that? And he was like, UMass. Yeah. Like, you don't get it. You don't get it. And that's fine. So I pulled Zach aside. I'm working on a Jacob Trouba feature, and he's the only guy at rookie camp that's really been around him. So I was able to just kind of pull him and ask him a couple questions so casually and just because I'm a familiar face to them, which is really nice. And then on the main group, Adam Fox, I think I had a good relationship with him back when the locker rooms were open when I first started. He was one of the only guys in the room that I felt comfortable going up to just because I covered him when he was at Harvard and covered him versus Cale Makar and that whole storyline in college. So I felt pretty familiar with them. And it is a little bit of an advantage for me because especially with the Rangers are such a young team.
Yep.
Right.
I'm the same age as like a good portion of those guys. So I'm hoping that'll help me in connecting with them and just showing that I am also a 25-year-old
living in New York.
Just like they are. We just happen to work in the same space.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it must be the transition for you guys. I know Jonny and I were speaking to our good friend Vince a few times, and he was saying, I can't wait to get the access back because it's so crucial for you guys on just like a development level with the players and the coaches and stuff like that. So that's awesome. And I did want to ask you, what do you think the top 9 will look like on opening day this year? I know we have all these different kids that Lafreniere could be on line 1, could be on line 3. Kako can be on line 1, on line 2. So I was curious to see what your take is on that top 9.
Yeah, I think if we're going off of the structure that they had in place last season, which is kind of how I expect them to try to go the first way, start tinkering with things, I would say, Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere on the top line, Panarin, Trocheck, Kako, and then I think they'll do a combination of like Barkley, Goodrow, Sammy Blais, and Kravtsov for the third line, something like that maybe. Obviously, you have a couple other guys that are in the mix there too, but I do think that it'll be for the right wingers. Lafreniere will probably have to go on his off wing, but I think it'll be Lafreniere, Kako, Kravtsov, which is a very young right side. But I just can't imagine that they're going to bury Kravtsov anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I do think that they want to give him every possible look that they can at this stage in the game and in their relationship. And how beneficial would it be for them if he becomes the player that everybody thought that he was going to be, the entire time he's been in the Rangers organization. So that would be crucial for them.
Yeah. I mean, he's been one guy I've always just been a huge fan of. I think outside of probably Lafreniere in the last 5-6 years, he was the prospect I was most excited with. So obviously when that all that stuff unfolded, I was upset and not happy because I wanted to see this kid flourish. And, you could see in those few games he played for the Rangers, the explosiveness he has, and he just needs it to translate. So I think giving him this shot this year to kind of, prove it, right?
Right, exactly. Also Filipino in that third line group too. Yeah. And my hot take is that Filipino is going to be a star this year.
Really?
I don't know why.
I'm not even asking you my last question because you're just destroying me here.
Oh, sorry. But it's true. No, I really, I feel like I've said it way too many times. It's probably getting creepy at this point. I thought that Filipino just became a different person during the playoffs. He really, it was right after they went down 3-1 in the first round and they brought Hedl out to talk, which he's not usually the guy that they go to in those sorts of situations. It's Trouba, it's Kreider, it's Mika, those guys. And Filipino came in and I was kind of like, okay, this is different, a different voice. I like it. And the way he answered the questions was, I was really impressed. I hadn't heard him speak like that before, that definitively, that, strongly. And then he just followed it up with a tremendous rest of the postseason on the ice. So I just think that he gained a lot of confidence from that. And I remember just talking to him in the press conference setting, he just made it so clear that he was so thrilled to finally be really contributing. And he was just so thrilled to really feel like he was playing a part of it, which, wasn't always the case. And he's been here for a while. A lot of people forget that, how long he's been a part of the team and how long he's been a part of this group too. So it really meant a lot to him. And I think it's going to do wonders for him into the regular season.
But then the other side of that is that it adds way more pressure to him going into this year as well. It could. But, I mean, we all love him, so we hope it pans out for him as well. I don't think there's any Ranger fan that doesn't like Hedl.
No, I mean,
do you not?
No, I was. No, I actually, I was critical of Hedl for a long time just because I knew he had all this potential and it just never translated. That being said, I did understand he's this young kid, but last year, I mean, he's been on this team almost 5 years. So it's how long I understand that these kids, by the time they finally peak and so on, it's around ages 25, 26, but most of them aren't starting on a team at 17 years old. Exactly. So, I was waiting and over time, obviously frustrations grow a little bit, but
he's also had trouble with injuries too.
Yeah. And you know what? My dad is a big Hedls fan and he will always rag on me because I used to be very critical of him. And
I'm sure he had a field day with you during the playoffs.
shout out to you, Ira Frankel.
He was seriously one of their top 5 players the whole playoffs.
Exactly. But I will say, you know, I'm very, very happy for him. I'm happy that he broke out. And I do think that he's kind of on that type of deal now where, like, you know, he knows his next contract is coming up and he's going to do everything he can. I'm sure he worked really hard this offseason to build on that successful postseason. And honestly, I hope he does.
Yeah. Guess we'll see.
Molly, I don't know if anyone's talked to you about this yet, and I'm trying to I'm blanking on the exact question, but it definitely is an interesting thing to discuss from your perspective, because I remember there being a question that you asked Gerard Gallant about. It might have been Lafreniere's ice time.
Yeah,
where he kind of snapped.
Yeah.
And have you talked on this yet? Because what's up?
Nothing.
Have you talked about this yet? Because I mean, that kind of like blew up all over Twitter. That
it did.
You know,
it did.
But you're, I mean, everyone knows you're such a sweet and innocent person. Like you never try to get like a, you know, an angry answer out of somebody. But
of course,
you know, for you as a young reporter going through that, can you talk about your emotion like in that moment?
Players get a lot out of being on the fourth line, so I'm just curious.
Are you kidding me? Like seriously, Mama? Seriously, the kid played tonight. No, I mean, give it a rest.
What you thought he got?
I thought he was fine. Like, there's nothing more than Lafreniere tonight. The guy scored some good goals. We played some pretty good hockey. And you're going to bring up Lafreniere again? Give the kid a break.
No, of course. I mean, obviously high emotion right after it happened. But honestly, when it was over, it was kind of like a welcome to the club moment.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I feel like every reporter that is doing what they're supposed to be doing has that happen to them at one point in time, and probably multiple times throughout their career. So I think that I didn't take it personally. And Gallant and I actually sat down after the fact and like just cleared the air. I think he thought I was coming from a malicious place, and I, you know, obviously.
So not you,
yeah. And I was like, you know, I hope you know that I am very well aware here that you are the NHL coach with NHL experience, and I have actually never been on skates with a stick and puck in my hand in my entire life. So I'm fully aware of that dynamic. But I think that, you know, it was blown up a little bit more than it had to be. Like it just happened to be obviously broadcasted. So I think that certainly helped, but really a welcome to the club kind of moment, almost like a coming of age moment for me in my career. So I felt like it was, you know, it was going to happen one way or another, whether it was now in a couple years, different coach, different team, whatever it may be.
I was going to say it could have been worse. It could have been Torts. So
yeah. Oh my God. I think about how lucky I was to have missed him, honestly.
Well, do the players ever like contact you about stuff that you write also? Because I mean,
no. You know, it's fun. I thought you were gonna say like something about, you know, seeing that whole thing unfold with Gallant. It was actually so funny. I did a one-on-one with Trouba like right after that, and he came into the room and like whatever, we were just like shooting the shit. Can I say that on here?
Yeah.
And he was like, we sat down and he was like, don't ask me about Laffy. And we both just kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, you got jokes. Like you got jokes. Okay. You know,
great.
So, you know, you could all have a big laugh about it. I mean, it's sports, it's hockey. Like it's not that deep. And
the players do see this stuff. Like
of course they're
active on social media.
Of course they do. Yeah, of course. With social media, it's so much different now. And you know, I'm sure as much as a lot of guys would say they don't read anything, I mean, it's so difficult not to, I can imagine. So, but you know, I would read stuff too. You can't really help it, especially in the way that our society is just right now.
It's actually funny. I saw Jonesy in between periods at Game 1 in the Penguin series. I was with my friend George Mika, who you know as well from UMass. Yeah. So we saw him in the Chase Bridge, and I was like, dude, like, do you see like what people are tweeting? Like they all want you in the lineup. And he's like, I'm trying to read it, but like I see it.
Yeah, I know that they're all calling. Yeah, of course they see it. It's impossible for them not to. Who could blame them? Yeah, who could blame them?
All right. I think I just have one more here. I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions, even though you answered like 6 of them out of the 6. But yeah, so you could just give a quick answer and let's have a little fun with it. So first, will Breadman finally break 100 points this season?
Ooh, yes.
All right. If Lafreniere, Heedle, Kako, and Keandre Miller were a boy band, what would their name be?
Who are the players?
Lafreniere, Kako, and Keandre
And Heedle.
and Heedle. Oh, I would call them probably something like the Four Musketeers. It would be something like that.
Okay. I was thinking of the Strangers with a capital R.
Dude, I tweeted this out. I think you tweeted this like in the playoffs. The Heatles, like the Beatles.
The Heedle.
Oh, that's a good
so
one too.
we're proclaiming Heedle as the lead singer.
He's the lead.
Basically, what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. All right, you kind of answered this one, but who's more likely to replicate their fantastic season, Igor or Kreider?
I want to say Igor, but I don't know. Chris Kreider, last season wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
Is basically what I want to say. It was not a fluke. That was a player who finally like kind of let go of all of, the pressure and responsibilities and just played to his strengths and his game. So I really would not be surprised if he was able, maybe not the exact same season, but to have the same kind of impact in terms of scoring. I wouldn't be surprised at all. That mastery around the net doesn't just go away,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you also kind of answered this one. Yeah, for me. But who's one Ranger you think will have a breakout season this year aside from Philip Heedle?
Okay. If we're going beside Heedle, let's see. Braden Schneider.
I like it. All
Thank
right.
you.
And last one. At what point in the future do you see yourself marrying Alexis Lafreniere?
Oh my God, stop it.
Because I know how much you love him.
Wouldn't that be great to go along with that story? Because I love my career, never.
All right, good answer.
Good answer.
Thank you.
I have a couple more as well.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I should follow it up right now, but I'll say it again. You work a lot, obviously, with the Islanders as well, and you get to see the fans on both sides, right? So you've seen the Islanders have success, you've seen the Rangers have success. What would you say is the biggest difference between both fan bases, if there is
fan
any?
bases? That's
a great question.
A good question. I think the Islanders have a lot of pride just because of obviously the 4-Cup dynasty. And I think that, the Lou and Barry era was very important to them, just having such two great big names at the top of their organization. So I think that there's a lot of pride in the Islanders organization and fan base. For the Rangers, it's just a little bit more fanatic-y. It's just a little bit more like outrageous and outlandish and, just jumping to conclusions. The sky is immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a testament to the passion. I think that Islander fans are, just have a lot of pride and they don't want their organization to be shit on. And, they won't stand for that because they have a lot of pride. But Ranger fans are just a different breed of passion and craziness, which I love and appreciate so much.
I feel like when you tweet out the lines for an Islander game as opposed to the lines for the Ranger game, your quote tweets are like double the amount when it's the Rangers.
No, it's true. And it's quite funny having both followings in my following because they often go at each other. Like the Islander fans will be happy to see, the Rangers are losing or something, and they'll make some snide comment. So it's kind of it's sometimes it's World War III in my mentions, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's the best. And going into this season a little bit too. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot throughout this whole interview, but for this season to be a success for the Rangers, what needs to happen? Because I try to be like a little unbiased, and I think they're going to lose in the first round. Like that's just my opinion.
Wrong.
Yeah,
wrong.
Yeah.
Well, to add to Jonny, what needs to happen aside from the kids flourishing? Because that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you think
or like a
truly
result?
Yeah.
You know, these are good questions.
Thank you.
Aside from the kids flourishing is really a really, really big part of
Mhm.
it. Aside from that, they do kind of need the replication from Igor Shesterkin. They obviously
Yeah.
really do need that. And they also need to hang on to that resilient kind of way about them that they kind of coined in the playoffs. I think that that's a huge trait that they can't lose sight of or lose, which can't imagine why they would. But I think that another layer to it is not letting the new expectations of this season get in the way, get in their head,
Good one.
you lose a couple games, you can't let it spiral when you are facing such expectations, which is something this Rangers team hasn't had to have hovering over them for quite some time. So, training camp next week, when we do speak to all these guys for the first time, the questions are going to be a lot different. They're not about the playoff mandate like they were last season. It's kind of like, you guys need to make the playoffs. Like, how is that? It's kind of like you have a huge, huge run to live up to, can you do it again? What needs to happen? That kind of, it's just a different type of tone. And I think that that's never easy to shoulder and to carry around. I feel like it makes it much easier to slide during the regular season when things aren't going well. So that goes back to hanging on to that resilient kind of trait and knowing what they're capable of and knowing that they are capable of replicating it. So I think it's going to be a mental thing for the Rangers too. I think it's going to have to be one collective mindset. But that's kind of like a long-winded answer and
Perfect.
and kind of
my dog did not like that answer, Mollie.
You know what? I thought it was a pretty good one. I think that I do really do think that because they have the tools. The same guys are back except for Ryan Strome, essentially. Obviously not the deadline guys, but they got through the majority of the regular season without those deadline guys. And they finished second in the Metro, which I also think will be huge to do again. They obviously don't want to draw the Lightning in the first round or, like those types of teams right away. So I think that it all plays a big part into it, but I'm excited. It's going to be because there's such a different narrative around the team. I think it'll be really interesting to see how it unfolds.
Agreed.
For sure. And I think it's also, yes, I think that was a good answer despite what my dog thinks, but I do also think it's really important to see Panarin and Trocheck have that instant chemistry.
For sure.
He had it with Strome. I mean, he had it with Copper.
Mm-hmm.
I assume he's going to fit right in with Tro, but I do think Trocheck's incredibly important in this offense moving forward. Obviously, we just gave him a very big contract, and we need him to kind of live up to that bill and, slide right in there as well. So,
and my final question is not for the reporter, Mollie Walker, for the New York City resident, Mollie Walker. I have a first date on Friday night with a girl.
Ooh.
What are some of Mollie Walker's do's and don'ts on a first date in New York City?
Do's and don'ts.
Wow.
That's a good one. All right. Well, this is what I'm experiencing now in the city, which is like a whole different dynamic. Number one, it would be if you are meeting someplace like in the middle, it would be really nice to offer to pay for at least one of her Ubers, taxi cabs, either there or back. That's a really nice gesture and will go a long way. I'm literally like broadcasting how to woo Mollie Walker.
We're gonna have guys in your DMs now, like
pay for one of the transportations. You don't have to do both. That's a little, I wouldn't expect that, but one is a very, very nice gesture.
Well, you're also coming from the Upper East Side, so
that's exactly.
I
hate my $30 Uber downtown. It sucks. Help me out with way. I think that, if it is possible to go closer to her, that's always very kind. What else?
Hey,
those are a couple dudes.
Commute.
Say it again.
This all just seems to be your commute convenience.
I know, right? Yeah, those are a couple do's, couple don'ts. I guess.
How many drinks? 2, 3?
2 at most.
2 at most.
2 at
Okay.
most if you're just doing drinks.
2's the number.
Yeah, 2 is
Two?
the number. Well, me personally, anything past 2, like, you're carrying me out of here. So obviously don't want that. Yeah, 2 is the max. And I think that you obviously want it to be a nice place or maybe do an activity, something like that.
Taco Bell won't work, Johnny. Sorry.
Taco
No,
Bell.
well, that's the
Taco Bell
thing, though.
Cantina.
That's a tough one because I love talking about work.
No, you said Taco Bell.
No, I said
I thought you
Taco
said talk
Bell.
about work.
I mean,
Don't talk
listen,
about
Molly, we
work.
can talk about work all you want. No
Okay,
problem.
yeah. Well, but I don't know, because not everybody is like that. So it's kind of tough for people like us who are obsessed with what we do. You don't always want to be talking about work, but I guess, monitor that. You don't, if it's someone who's not like that, you obviously don't want to always. But Taco Bell is always good too, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say Taco Bell's great. I guess to wrap things up, I don't know if you're aware of this. I became aware of this like the other day, but opening night is Alexis Lafreniere's 21st birthday.
Yeah.
So, are there rumblings about a team party after the game, and where can we go to meet up with them?
Oh no, there's no rumblings about a team party that I would hear about. Like, come on. But I do hope that they get a win for his birthday and that they celebrate accordingly in Manhattan somewhere, because that would only be right.
Yeah, that'd be a great night for
Johnny,
him.
let's start spreading the news and just massive
Yeah,
Lafreniere bash.
Manhattan is throwing a rager for Alexis Lafreniere's 21st.
I mean, that's pretty sick though. Like a #1 overall draft pick celebrating his 21st birthday
in the
New York
big city
on home
Not
opener.
a bad
Like,
gig.
this is
Not
a
a
sick
bad
night.
gig.
He might score a hat trick.
Yeah.
But Molly, we want to thank you
this
so
was
much for
awesome.
doing this, and we'd obviously love to have you on throughout the year. We know your schedule is insanely busy, so we appreciate your time.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me again.
And get me a press pass.
Yeah, got you. Let me call my contacts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
All right.
We want to thank our good friend Mollie Walker once again for stopping in and shooting the shit with us. We're super excited for her coverage this season. She does an outstanding job for the New York Post, and obviously we're excited that she'll have locker room access too, because it'll make her coverage even that much better. I don't really know if we have much else to talk about.
Molly's just the best,
Yeah, she is. She really is the best.
She's just the best. But yeah, no, I don't have anything else to add. We have some big stories that are gonna drop these next 2-3 weeks with these kids fighting for spots, and seeing Offman, seeing Cooley, the 6D man, and a lot's going to happen in these next few weeks. So definitely tune in, and we're going to have some great coverage for you guys, some great episodes, some great guests. And LFGR.
And we'll be giving our preseason predictions for each division, maybe.
Yeah,
perhaps?
I think we should. And I think we should do like some type of like bet. Yeah.
Okay. Down.
Another bet.
Yeah.
More.
Bet.
And we just need to we're going to need to have people hold us accountable, because we're going to have so many bets by the time the season rolls around. So we're going to have to write this all down in your notebook.
I have it already. I have the Devils having more points than the Ducks.
But I already won that one. So we're going to have to do other ones. Okay.
Deal. I bet.
I bet.
But thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next week, and we love you guys.
Later.